I have a new next so I have a brand new Next.js app here, and in this video what I'm going to do is I am going to explain this folder structure, so that if you are starting to learn Next.js you will get an idea that what each file means and how you can basically get started in Next.js. So to start, we have this app folder, right? And now the Next.js has two types of folder structures. First is pages router and second is app router. App router is the latest one and also the recommended one. So we will be moving forward with the app router only. And here we have the app folder. Let's say if it was a pages router, then it would have been a pages folder with these files, right? Now in the app router you have favicon.ico file, which is the default icon that you get, and it is applied here. So let's say if you want to change this icon in future for your website, you can just come here, replace this favicon.ico and put any file of yours and just rename it to favicon.ico, and you should be able to replace that icon. Then comes the globals.css. So since we are using Tailwind, first line that it has is importing Tailwind, and it will apply all the styles of the Tailwind in this globals.css. Then it is defining some themes, some colors, which are basically customizable, and you can put anything here. Then comes the layout.tsx. Now the biggest benefit that we see in Next.js is that you don't have to explicitly create layout files, you already have a feature of layout files. Now what layout files mean is that for that specific folder, for example at this level we are talking about app folder, right? But let's say if I create a home folder, then inside that we can also create a layout.tsx file. So what layout.tsx basically means is ki all the components, all the pages inside that folder will be wrapped inside this layout file. So let's say you want to define any custom, let's say you want to define any common logic, for example a nav bar, a sidebar you want to define for a particular set of routes, so you can define them in the layout.tsx file. And the main file inside this app folder is actually the global layout file. So here if you see, so we have two fonts which we are using here. In Next.js you get the access to Google Fonts out of the box, so you actually don't have to use some website to download fonts and import them here. But yeah, if you need any specialized font which is not available on Google Fonts, then you might need to go with that approach. So here we have two fonts, and then we have the metadata. Now what metadata basically means is ki whenever you use your website, send your website on any social media platform, so there is some information which is populated. So for example, this is the title, this is the description, and there are a lot of things. For example, the fav icon, the meta image, the OG images. So all these things you can customize from this metadata object. One thing to note here is that this metadata object will only work in server components, and by default every component in Next.js is a server component. So if you try to make it a client component, it won't work and it will ask you to remove this, and you'll remove this and it works. Now comes our component, which is root layout. It takes a children prop and renders the children. It takes the children prop and renders the children inside this HTML and body tags, and in the body we are using those variables, etc. Right? Then comes the page.tsx file. So page.tsx contains all the code that you can see here, and if you just want to get started, you can basically remove all this code and type anything that you want to show on the page. So as you see, we will get hello here, right? So this is how the page.tsx looks like. Here you define all the page logic. So for example, you want to create a new route which is home. So what you will do is you'll create a new folder and create a page.tsx inside that and start writing your code here. So whatever you whatever you will write here will actually be visible on slash home endpoint of your website. Then we'll close this folder. Then our node modules, we don't have to discuss about this because this is very common for all JavaScript frameworks. But now we'll move to the public folder. Public basically contains all the SVGs in a new Next.js project. But what you can use this folder to put is, you can put your media, you can put your audios. Let's say you want to put some script which should be publicly accessible, so you can put everything here only. uh, then we have a git ignore file which is used to ignore any folder in git. So basically we don't want our node modules to be pushed into git, so that is why we write them here, so that during git commit, git push, they ignore automatically. Then our eslint.config, so eslint is basically for code checking, and we are defining some config to ensure that our code is correct. uh, then our next env.d.ts, which defines some environment things about next.js. So for example, we have reference types equals to next. Some project contain this, some project doesn't contain this. This is not a very important file, but still you should keep it if it is there. Then next.config.ts, which basically contains all the config related to next.js. Let's say you try to use any image which is coming from a third party server tomorrow. So what you will basic so what you will basically do is you will define the host name here, so that it will be accessible to your website, because by default Next.js says that we cannot access external images. There are a lot of other use cases for this next config also, but yeah, that's the basic idea. Then package log.json. So these log files are basically some optimization files. So it is okay if you even remove it, but the thing is ki package.json contains all the project information, and it contains the dependency of your project. When you are installing these dependencies, package log.json contains all the meta information about these dependencies. So it's always faster to uh, download, install those dependencies if you have already a package log.json file. But yeah, the main file is package.json and not the log file, but still it is important. Then you have post css, which is a tailwind related file, and it's actually a plugin which is required for tailwind to work. And yeah, then we have readme.md. You everyone knows what it is. It is basically a markdown file that lets people understand about your project. It's not a mandatory file, but yeah. tsconfig.json. So tsconfig is a file which is used to define config on how your TypeScript should be converted to JavaScript. So if you see the compiler option, so it contains a lot of things. For example, in which target you want to convert the JavaScript, and a lot of other things. But yeah, the core purpose of this file is to actually define how the TypeScript should be converted into JavaScript. And with that, we have completed all the folder structure. The one folder which is .next is actually the build folder. So whenever you run yarn dev or npm run dev, this .next folder is created for temporary build. And let's say you run yarn build or npm run build, then your final build will also be created in this folder. So it basically contains the build files which help your dev server or your production server to run. um, I hope you would have understood what each file means in Next.js setup. And if you have liked this video, don't forget to press the like button and share it with your friends. And also for these kind of videos, please subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you in the next one.